University of Malaysia. So we are being with us, and thank you, Shahid Mahmood, for arranging such a good and concurrent issues of doing research. It's very important in recent days globally. You know that globally technology has been changed and merged, and we have to explore and shift to the new arena of research and engaging with doing some interesting research. So at the initial stage, we have to identify. It's very important to read about the previous studies to explore and identify the research gap. So critically, if we handle those things from the previous studies, we know many of our students already know about the literature review, but maybe we have some scope to expand our knowledge through this kind of seminar. So basically in research, there are two parts of literature review: theoretical literature and empirical literature. So everyone, you know that in theoretical literature, we are just engaging with the previous studies and previous theories, because whenever we explore some relationship, even we have to develop some hypothesis, then we have to support with the existing theories and expand those theories in some extent. So it's very important. And here, another part is empirical research, where the existing literature we have just explored and engaged with some previous studies and support with our findings as well as our hypotheses. At the end is just focusing on the gap, research gap and problem of statement. Not only that, whenever we have to contribute our existing literature or expand our knowledge or sharing of our knowledge, so we have to solve the real life problem. And doing this, and if we want to move to solve those kind of problems, we have to identify the research gap. So basically, there are some debatable issues of doing or finding out the research gaps. So maybe we can just explore with the some or gather some current studies, as well as we can also rely on the previous or the later studies. So we can just focus on theoretical augmentations or segmentations, as well as the empirical focus. So from these kind of issues, we can also expand our knowledge through engaging or just generating new variables with our models or framing up of our models. Also, we have to based on or rely on those theories as well as the literatures, previous literatures. So we are waiting how to just write or how to develop our literature review part with some interesting issues involving with the as well as the research framework. So thank you all for joining here, and I just request to Honorable Professor Dr. Muhammad Rafikul Islam to start his session. And thanks again for participating all of the audiences here. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Thank you, sir. Sir, for your observation. Now, we don't waste our valuable time. I want to hand over the floor to our honorable guest for his discussion. Dear audience, if you have any question or query, you can ask those in our question answer session, which will be at the later part of this webinar. Thank you. Professor Rafikul Islam, sir, you can start now. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Professor Maududul Haq, Dean, Faculty of Business Studies, Mawlana Bhashani Science and Technology University. Mr. Muhammad Shahid Mahmood, Chairman, Department of Management, Mawlana Bhashani Science and Technology University. Members of the Department of Management, then members of the Faculty of Science, Faculty of Business Studies, then my colleague Professor Hassanul Haq, and as you said, there are many others are joining from, of course, from Bangladesh as well as from other parts of the world. my dear students, audience, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuhu, and very good morning to all of you. First of all, I would like to extend my sincere thanks and gratitude to the Dean of Business of Faculty of Business Studies and also the Chairman, Mr. Muhammad Shahid, for extending invitation to me. I'm really thankful to you all. And it is indeed my great pleasure and great honor to be with you this morning. So thank you very much once again. Without further ado, I would like to start my session because it is quite long, so I should not lose any time. As you know that the topic of my title of my talk is basically literature review. And both of you have said already, Shahid Mahmood and also the Dean has mentioned that literature review is extremely important component, essential mandatory component of any thesis. That could be a master's thesis, that could be PhD thesis, that could be Doctor of Business Administration thesis, or any kinds of thesis, I believe. Without literature review, we cannot proceed, because the basic purpose of literature review is that I want to carry on, I want to carry out some research in some particular area. So I must know what has been done, because research by definition, as you know, that it's something new I have to develop, something new I have to create, something new I have to innovate. So how do I claim that this is new? So logically, we have to see what has been done. So how to know what has been done? Obviously, the answer is we have to read the previous works, and that's it, the literature review. So literature review logically is a very, very important part. Um, it takes a very long time. In fact, there are some training providers, they offer workshop on literature review, and not one day, continuous 2 days. In fact, I had the privilege to attend one of the session, like 2 days workshop on literature review. So it is so many things, but I will be all collapsing into um, about 2 hours time. And I know that my dear audience, that many of you are already advanced. You know many things about literature review. But I will be basically talking for students, those who are really new in this area of research. So if you are already know, then of course it can be boring to you, but please bear with us, because there are also some students who are very new in research, and they need to know what is literature review and how to go about this, and how to write all these kinds of in my thesis. So I'll be talking about from that particular angle. So let me share the screen first, share the slide first, and through the slides, then I can speak more. Okay, please let me know whether the slides are visible.
Yes, Prof, visible.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the title, Reviewing Literature Critically for High Impact Publications. Now, the brief outline will be, of course, there are so many things, but I will be brief in each and every point. I'll be not going into details, but I found that I thought that these are all important things, so I need to talk about this. So what is literature review? What is the definition of literature review? Why do we need to conduct literature review? What are the characteristics of a good literature review? What is not literature review? Meaning of critical review, sources of literature, how to search literature, organizing literature, starting reviewing using matrix method, which itself is quite long, but I will be just speaking the summary of that particular concept. Then we have the theoretical framework, hypothesis development, citation process, preparing the chapter the bibliography, which will be used for to do the literature review, and also plagiarism case. So plagiarism also very comprehensive issue. I'll be not talking about that extent, but just the essentials of those things. Okay, now at the very start, student has to decide. I'm talking about, let's say, business students. Those will be doing research in either master's or even PhD or doctoral business administration. First of all, we have to decide our field, our area, or maybe discipline. So the area could be marketing, area could be human resource management, area could be operations management, and so on. And once we decide, this is very important, and this area has to be decided looking at my career path. I want to establish myself as a marketing man, marketing person, marketing professor. So then my interest is in marketing, and this choice also depends upon my own interest. In one hand, I have to have my career path, and accordingly I will choose my discipline, and then my interest also matters a lot. Once I decide my discipline, my area, then I have to select a title, because it's the marketing is a very huge discipline. So what particular part of marketing, what particular area of operations management I will be doing my dissertation, I'll be doing my thesis. So I have to select the title of my thesis. Now, after selecting the title, then we have to know what are the keywords. Then, because I have to search the literature, what has been done in the past and what new thing I can do. And then I have to develop a research proposal, and research proposal has mainly 3 chapters, and one of them is literature review. And I had the privilege to examine many PhD theses locally as well as some other countries. And I do find that there are some issues regarding literature review. And one of my colleagues, she says that if the literature review is not comprehensive enough, it's not up to the mark, then the student may get major correction. You know that in the proposal defense, there is minor correction, there is a major correction. So major correction can be if the literature review is not comprehensive enough. So, and I do agree with this, because literature review is extremely important. And from the literature review, we can see, we can understand how hardworking the student is from the literature review chapter. And this, arguably, this is the most time consuming and most comprehensive chapter in the entire thesis. Even today, I opened my email and I found that one of my supervisors, she has sent chapter 2. In fact, I do require all my students, they will be writing chapter 2 first in the entire thesis or the entire proposal. Chapter 2 first. The logic is, if the student, they know the content of the materials, then it will be very easy to go back to chapter 1, writing background of the problem, writing objectives of the research. Is very easy. So I found that she has sent me the chapter which is about 85 pages, which is quite long. In fact, it is more than average. I examined one thesis in University Malaysia Sarawak. The student got the thesis literature review chapter has about 150 pages, but those are actually high end, but at least some, you know, I have used the word comprehensive. So comprehensive is actually subjective word, but when we read something, and we will know, eventually we will know whether this work is a comprehensive enough or not. So we require the student to have a comprehensive literature review. What is literature review? Literature review has been defined by people in many ways. One of the definitions of literature review is, let me see this one. A literature review is the selection of available documents, both published and unpublished. There are some unpublished also we can use as our literature on that particular topic, which contain information, ideas, data, and evidence written from a particular standpoint to fulfill certain aims or express certain views on the nature of the topic and how it is to be investigated, and the effective evaluation of these documents in relation to this research being proposed. So basically, literature review is reading the previously published, mainly published work, could be article, could be book, and then synthesize and then we develop the write-up. So that is the basic notion of literature review. Literature review means we collect from the previous published work, mainly research articles, selected articles, and then we read, we summarize, we synthesize, and then we put a report. So that is basically the concept of literature review. Why do we need to conduct literature review? There are many reasons. To acquire an in-depth, up-to-date knowledge about what has been done so that you don't reinvent the wheel. If I want to develop a model, but the model is already has been developed by someone years ago, so definitely I cannot develop the same model because it has been done. Because later the research means something new. I have to develop, I have to create, as I mentioned previously. So how do I know this? We have to do the literature review. Your research is positioned related to existing knowledge. Where is my where do stand my research in the existing body of knowledge? You can look at a problem from a specific angle. You are because there are many works which have been done in the related area, and if I am reading all these works, so I will know what particular angle this work has been done. On that another paper, what particular angle this has been done and which has been not done. That is the indication for my developing my research gap or finding my research gap. You are able to introduce relevant terminology and to define key terms, key variables, new variables used in your writing. You obtain useful insights of the research methods others have used to provide the answer to similar research questions. This point is very, very important. This point just now I mentioned, that when I read a research paper, then I will know what particular research method has been applied by the authors of that particular paper or by the researcher concerned. So then by means of going through a number of research paper, research articles, I will be exposed to many research methods. So that is a very, very important benefit for literature review. What concepts and theories are relevant to my research area? You know, the concept theories, I'll be talking about this later, is an integral part of our research. Especially if we are developing hypotheses, and if we are going to prove or disproving the hypothesis, then the concept theories are very important. Without literature review, it is not possible to have this good concept of concepts and theories. Helps develop conceptual framework. I'll be talking about this later. Are there any significant controversies, inconsistencies in the findings? If that is the case, then I can take up this and I can conduct some research in this particular part. Helps writing discussion section. In a thesis, there are some chapters which are common. Let me tell you. Chapter 1 is introduction. Chapter 2 is literature review. Chapter 3 is research method. Chapter 4 is results and discussion. And chapter 5 is conclusion. But there are some variations. It can be results one chapter. Even results can be several chapters. Then there will be discussion is an integral part of a thesis. So in the discussion part, we need to relate my findings and with the findings of the previous research. So literature review is important in this particular case. And to find out the research gap. Research gap, finding out the research gap is essential. This is one of the frequently asked questions by the examiners of a PhD thesis or master's thesis, as well as reviewers of research papers. You know, when we write a paper, then we send to some journal editor for review, and the journal editor sends to the reviewers. And reviewer, they give the comments, and one of the common comments is this: the research gap is not very clear. So to have a very good, very clear research gap, literature review is a must. Now, literature review is not a list, not a summary of the paper. So I will share with you one thesis I evaluated some time ago, and this is the for this particular student, the literature review was not chapter 2, it was chapter 3. And this literature review chapter is quite long. Student might be using 50, 60 pages. And the format of this chapter is like this. See, this is the author name and the year of publication. And the student, the PhD student, he or she has just given the summary of this. Then after that, the student has gone to another article and then another summary of this article. Then another article, then summary of the article, another article, another summary, another article, and this was this is page number 31. This is page number 32, and this is page number 58. I just made the scan, and then so all these 30, 40 pages, all like this. This is not literature review. So brothers and sisters, please note that this is not the literature review. Literature review is something else. Okay, so this one. So literature review is not the summary or summarizing one piece of literature after another. Organize the literature review into sections that present themes or identify trends, including theory. You are not trying to list the materials published, as I have shown, that is a literature review, but to synthesize. This synthesized or synthesis word is into literature review. Literature review matters synthesizing the previous topic regarding certain subtopics. So I'd like to share with you this. What is the meaning of synthesis? This is also another thesis I examined recently, and this from India. She did some work in Islamic banking issue in India. And this is the part of literature review. I just one page, just to show you that what is the meaning of synthesis. For example, in the UK, access to banking, affordable credit, and face-to-face money advice are the chief dimensions and the factors affecting financial inclusion, mostly employment status, household income, and household tenure. So the variable is financial inclusion. In United Kingdom, financial inclusion means employment status, household income, and household tenure. And there is a reference, Dublin 2005. Whereas in South Africa, factors like communication technologies, which includes mobile phones, fixed phones, and cost of a call, were found to have an effect on financial inclusion. Another reference, year of publication 2000. So the researcher, the student, has mentioned the financial inclusion, how financial inclusion is done in UK, then South Africa, all within one paragraph. In other words, issues of remittances inflows were studied as they are believed to have a robust positive effect on financial inclusion. Another reference. These major factors in developing countries, priority sectors such as agricultural and economic backward classes, must be considered for these formal financial services. So this is the meaning of synthesis. This paragraph revolves around the variable financial inclusion, and the research has given the financial inclusion in UK with reference, South Africa with reference, and then India also she has talked about. So all should be within one paragraph. So this is the meaning of synthesis. After this, evaluate according to the guiding concept of your thesis of research question. So let's go ahead. Now, what are the characteristics of a good literature review? Various findings are synthesized. We have to make sure that we synthesize the various findings, and the literature review should be developed on the basis of certain structure. So I will show you one structure from my own student. So this is the chapter 2, literature review. see that she's working on e-commerce. So she has written here e-commerce, and under e-commerce, there are many subtopics like e-commerce adoption in Malaysia, e-commerce consumer, e-commerce experience, preferred advice for online shopping. So this is one main variable, e-commerce. Then retailing industries. Then under retailing industries, there are a number of topics. Malaysian fashion industry, she's a Malaysian. So Malaysian fashion revolution, Malaysian fashion online shopping, and you see that. So there are some topics, there are some subtopics, there are some subtopics. So we have to develop our literature review similar to this kind of write-up, similar to this kind of fashion. Okay, so let's go ahead. So if the topic is total quality management in higher education, so that could be the main topic, and under this topic we can write total quality management for higher education, benchmarking in higher education, service quality in higher education, and so on. Also, the literature is topic-wise, subtopic-wise, and students must include the latest literature. Now, latest literature, some last 5 years, some people say 7 years. So I have seen, I have taken 7 years. And recently, my own supervisors, the final viva was done, and this was the issue. The examiners, they said that majority of, I was the co-supervisor of this student, majority of the student literature is outdated. So the examiners, they want to see majority of your articles which you have cited in your chapter or in your paper are published in the last 7 years. Even you can start the searching 2021. The examiners, the reviewers will be happy to see that you have cited to, so they know that you are up to date in searching your literature. So please remember, this is a very important point, that we need to include our majority of our references which are published in the last 5 to 7 years. That does not mean that the old references are discouraged, cannot be given, still can be given, but not too many. And those are really important and could be seminal work. This could be the person, even the 76, 19, it is okay, it is not bad, but those papers really highly seminal work. People know that, and if you don't give that kind of the old reference, then the examiner might, how come you missed the person who thought, which I use a lot, that is analytic hierarchy process. Analytic hierarchy process was developed by Professor Thomas Sati, who passed away recently. So some papers could be 1985, 1988. It's okay, because these are the seminal works which you are referring and other people are using. But the research which have been done in your area, those are not, may not be seminal work. Those papers should be published as recent as possible, 2020, 21, 20, 19, like that. Okay, so the discussion should be organized according to the themes, according to the topics. Include well-respected individuals in your research area. So your thesis will be examined by some expert in that particular area. Normally the experts are belong to that particular area where you are doing your research, and they know that these are the initial papers. So if you do not cite these papers, do not refer to these papers, then examiners will be questioning, are you really sure that you know the field, because you have not given the source of the reference, or the source of the works. So that's why it is very important area. So you have to cite. It may be recent, it may be old, it is okay. And also logical and progressing smoothly from one idea to the next. This is also one of the frequently raised issues by the examiners. Your literature review is jumbled up. There is no coherency. There is no consistency of the one paragraph to another paragraph. You have jumped from idea to idea. idea to idea, this kind of things when I sit in the examination body, when the student is present and many examiners are there. So I listen, I hear all the kinds of comment from fellow colleagues, from my fellow examiners. They say that your literature review is a jumble up. You have jumped from one. It is a very important to maintain coherency of ideas in the literature review chapter and in-depth study. As I said, from the literature review chapter, I will know whether the student is hardworking or not. So we require the student, especially PhD students, to be going for in-depth literature review. Start with a general topic. Normally, we advise students to follow like a triangle, right? Inverted triangle. The first, you start with a general topic, like say total quality management in higher education. It's a very huge area, total quality management. There are also journals published by multiple publishers on this particular area, the quality management in higher education. But your topic would be very narrow topic, subtopic in this discipline, quality management in higher education. But when you start your literature review, start with a general idea, with a broad idea, then gradually you come down to your specific topic. What is not literature review? As I said, firstly, that if you just put summary, then this is not literature. So that is one of the points. Only summaries of the articles are provided paragraph by paragraph. That is no efforts are placed to synthesize the findings. Then that is not literature review. The student has jumped one idea from another, no coherency among the paragraphs. So this is another issue I have already mentioned. Repeating the same materials several times. In the thesis, there are some repetitions, especially the literature review and the discussion part, but quite often I do find that the students has repeated several times the same thing. This is not something good. Too few sources used. I also observed that sometimes one particular reference the student has overused. The student has used again and again the same, as if that this is the only thing which is available in the area. So should be avoided. Of course, some may be very relevant, very important. You can cite more than once, but not too many times. That is awkward looking. A narrow range of sources is used, only internet sources or newspapers. For academic writing, we prefer articles, books, internet resource, and newspapers should be as minimum as possible. Sometimes newspaper we accept, because if the issue is the local issue, it is not many work have been done, and is a current issue, then newspapers are okay. But in general, the examiners, they don't like it, the newspaper articles or even the internet resources, because internet resources have very less credibility. Newspaper also, but newspaper sometimes there is no author, so who is responsible for this? So it is difficult to say. Poor use of citations. I will be also talking about citations later. No student content, and the work relies entirely on the quotations. Some people, they use too many quotations in the literature review. One or two occasionally acceptable. But if the student has used too many quotations, then where is the student's own work? So you don't have to use too many quotations. If you want to use, but just you paraphrase, and then you can put it in writing using your own words. It's okay. Majority of the references are old, already mentioned. Incorporation of irrelevant materials. Please make sure that in the literature review chapter, you provide something which is relevant to your title, which is relevant to your work, your research area. I do find that sometimes, like say IPA, important performance analysis, nothing to do with the student work, but I do find that the student has written about this. So I have to ask the student, why did you write this? Maybe the student has followed another thesis, and that student has used IPA. Maybe it was relevant to that particular student, but it is not relevant to, but the students, sometimes they just follow some other people's work without understanding actually what the student is doing. So that is a very serious issue here. Research gap is not identified. So before examiner asks you, where is your research gap? That's why we, the supervisors, with the examiners, we advise a student, then in the last part of your literature review, you put one section heading called research gap, so that examiner examiner sees this, and and therefore examiner cannot ask you where is the research gap. But if you don't put in a heading, then the examiner has to find out where is the research gap, because research gap is essential, obviously. So it has to be highlighted. And I do advise that you can put one, you can use some heading research gap, and then you can put 1 or 2 paragraphs. And it is a pleasure is to work. So this is not literature review. 3 skills are required for doing literature review, like how to search and selection skills, because now the knowledge, the number of articles, books is infinite actually. It is impossible to read all this, impossible. So I have to select, I have to search the relevant literature, which is good for me, which is good for my area, and how to analyze, how to evaluate, and how to synthesize. So I'll be highlighting this one by one. Main source of literature, we have to select, we have to search literature. So from where? In this case, there are many avenues which are regarded as a good source, like articles, books, internet sources, newspapers, conference proceedings, government, NGO, international organizations such as UN, United Nations report, sometimes it is helpful. Thesis dissertation also could be literature. So here the number 1 is articles. Now these articles have to be downloaded from credible sources. There are articles which are published in not so good journals. There are many journals nowadays we call predatory journals. These journals editor, they are doing business, they are taking money, don't look much. I'm not generalizing, but many of them like this, that they charge a lot, they don't see the quality, they promise that they will be publishing your article within 7 days, they also give some kind of, these are indicators that this is not a good journal. So the articles must be published in a credible, but there are some open access journals which are very good. I'm not generalizing, but there are, it is in my personal opinion, there are many journals today which are not so good. So we should not be reviewing articles published in those journals. So articles must be published in a credible, the credible publishers, we have in business research, we have Emerald, InterScience, Elsevier, Taylor and Francis, Wiley, Sage. There are many other good publishers. They have plenty of journals, and most of them journals are very highly credible journals. So we should be looking for this. Books are used, but the one problem is the books could be written quite some time ago, so it could be outdated. So despite that, if it's a recent book, then we can use, but not too many. Internet sources, if it is really necessary, then we can use, but not too much. Newspaper also, if it is really necessary and very relevant, then we can use, but also not too many. Conference proceedings, there are cases we can use conference proceeding. And government report, thesis dissertation also. Selected online databases. Our universities, my university also, your university might be subscribing some databases related to business or economics or accounting. One of them is ABI Inform, or we call ProQuest, Business Source Premier, EBSCOhost, Emerald Insight, Web of Science, InterScience, Science Direct, Scopus, Taylor San Francis, Wiley, Sage. I've already mentioned some of them. So these are the very credible online databases. So now, due to financial issue, our university used to subscribe most of them, our International Islamic University, Malaysia. But due to budget issue, financial issue, we have discontinued many. But still, we are subscribing Emerald Insight, and some of the others. So you have to see your library, what particular online database your library is subscribing, and that does not mean that you cannot use some other universities library. Maybe you have some friends and so on. There are many ways we can collect collect our research materials. Now this is the our library screenshot, library online databases. This is IIUM library online data screenshot. So you see the Emerald Insight is there. So Emerald Insight, we have also Scopus, Springer Link, Taylor San Francis Online. We used to have a lot actually, but due to budget issue, they have discontinued a number of them. We can also use Google Scholar. Please note that we have to download full text articles. If we have only the abstract, then abstract basis on the abstract, I cannot develop my research. I mean the literature review chapter. We must read the complete paper. Then we will know what is all about this particular paper. So I strongly encourage students that you have to read the complete paper. Now, complete paper you may not get from the online databases, but you can search the Google Scholar, which is widely available. And many universities, libraries, that we call a repository, the faculty repository, faculty publication repository. And these repositories are actually tied with Google Scholar. So you can access the full text, but not all, but there are a good number of articles you can have full text free. We have also Core and some other portal as well. They publish open access papers. There are thousands of papers, but some of them may be from the predatory journals, so we have to be careful about that. How to search literature? At first, as I said, we have to have a title. And this from the title, we have to find out the keywords. Like say the title is Benchmarking Ecotourism in Sarawak, and application of the analytic hierarchy process. I'm just giving some fictitious title. Benchmarking ecotourism in Sarawak. Sarawak is one of the states in Malaysia. An application of the analytic hierarchy process. So how do I search my literature? I have to find out the keywords. So from the title, the keywords are benchmarking, tourism, or it could be ecotourism, and analytic hierarchy process. At least these could be the keywords. If I take another example, improving quality of higher education provided by the private higher learning institutions of Malaysia and application of quality function deployment, or higher institutions of Bangladesh, in your case, and application of quality function deployment. So what could be the keyword? The keyword could be quality of higher education, private higher learning institutions, Malaysia or Bangladesh, and QFDs, which stands for quality function deployment. So once we identify the keywords, then we can go to online databases. Like in my case, let's say Emerald Insight. So I'll go to Emerald Insight website. Okay, it's coming up. Okay, so this is the Emerald Insight web page, and this is the normal general search button, but it is better to use advanced search. So this is just a demo, and more or less this is the feature more or less in all other online databases. So I click advanced search. Because why I'm showing Emerald? Because Emerald is a very popular online database for business studies. Now, in under advanced search, there are a number of options. You can use your year of publication, where from you want to get, maybe 2015 to 2021, or 2010 to 2020, up to you. But the most important thing is here. Let's say I want to search benchmarking. Now, benchmarking is used in many areas. And this benchmarking I want where I can search the articles whose title should be one of the words should be benchmarking, or the benchmarking word can be featuring under abstract, or benchmarking could be contributor. So the most restrictive one is title. So if I click here title, and then if I click search, then it is searching. You know how many hits have been given? Over 1,000. That means the journals published by Emerald, there are papers more than 1,000. The one of the words in the heading is benchmarking. But I don't need is more than 1,000. It's very difficult to search. So I have to refine. So what I'll be doing, I'll be adding row. And these are called Boolean operator. There are mainly three: and, or, not. But and is the most widely used. So by default, it is and. So here I will be using tourism. And maybe the tourism I want in the title, which is very restrictive. So if I do this, then if I click, benchmarking and tourism, do you see that? Benchmarking and tourism have appeared in the title only 7 papers. But maybe I want a little bit more. So what I'll be doing, I'll be going back, and then I will change from title to abstract, and then title to this second word also abstract. And then I will click search. Then it will be more than 7. Now this is 59 papers. 59 papers in the abstracts. We have benchmarking as well as tourism. Now I want to see how many papers are available in Bangladesh. The people have worked in benchmarking and tourism and Bangladesh, because one of the requirement for literature review is that the student must review the work which have been done locally. For example, if you are working on benchmarking in tourism industry in Bangladesh, then you need to see what are the works which have been done by fellow researcher, maybe from Bangladesh, maybe from elsewhere, maybe America, maybe, but the work is done on Bangladesh perspective in the area of benchmarking in tourism sector. So I will be writing Bangladesh here. There may not be any paper, it is okay, but I have to search. So maybe I will not title, title is very restrictive. I will go for abstract. If I don't find anything, then as far as the Emerald is concerned, there is no paper related to these 3 keywords. No, it does not show any, 0. So I will change to from Bangladesh to Malaysia. Let's say I use Malaysia here. Then I click here. There are only 3 papers. There are only 3 papers which are related to benchmarking in tourism sector in Malaysia. All right. So that is another way. This is one of the major ways to search your literature. You can use or, and you can use or, you can use here title. You can start with title because this is the most relevant articles you will find. If not, then you can go to abstract and also some others. Okay, now let's say you are searching that you are working on some area where you want to see the role of gender, male, female, in banking management. So your research area is role of gender in banking management. So how do you search your literature? So at first you have to give gender here, because that's the main keyword here, gender. And then you want to see title, maybe title. Okay, then you can do one thing, manage. Now gender in banking management, but you know that the word could be management, word could be manager, what could be managing. So you don't have to search separately for using separate keywords. So you can just use MANA and you can use star. This star is called wildcard character. Okay, so if I use here title and then you can go for search, and then you will see that in the title all the words will be there: manager, management, all these words will be there. You see here, yeah, gender is there. Gender, oh, I did not delete the Malaysian, the concept. This one I have to remove. Okay, so I go again. Okay, here 2007 articles which are related to gender in management. See the word here, management. Here also management, now it is the managers. So all the search engine will compile all the articles involving managers, managing, and also management. Then also I can use the term add row banking. It could be bank, it could be banks, it could be banking. All these kinds of word will be there. So I'll be just using bank, then star, and then we'll see the papers which have been published in the area of banking management and related to gender. So go to search, then 68 articles available. All these 68 articles are related to gender. At least the three keywords will be available here: gender, management, and banking. And if you go for abstract, the words available in abstract, these 68 numbers will increase to a great extent. All right. So in short, this is the way to search literature. Now, after getting this 68 articles, what to do? What is the next step? My advice will be look into the article, the title of the article carefully. Is it really, do you have any interest on this article? If you have interest, then read the abstract. If you don't have interest, forget it, because there are so many articles available. If you have interest, and then you read the abstract. After reading the abstract, you feel that, oh, it is really very, very good article for my research. So then you download. Okay. So this is the way we select the articles. We search the articles and then we select the articles. If you think that article title is interesting, but the abstract says something else, which is not that I don't understand, or I don't have much interest on this, forget it and go to the next article. And please note that this is from only one database. That is, for example, I did not find any article related to benchmarking in tourism in Bangladesh, but that is only from one database like Emerald Insight. But the journals are published by many other publishers like Inter Science, like Wiley. There could be some papers related to in that particular area, that like benchmarking in tourism sector in Bangladesh. So it is sometimes students say that there is no paper, no work published in my area. I think this kind of sentence should be modified, because I have not searched the entire universe, right? Because there may be some work which I could not find. So it is better not to say that there is no work has been done. Better to say that limited work has been done. Limited work. So it is the more polite way to state your research gap. A scant research has been done in this particular area. Something like that. Okay, so we go to this one. So we can organize our articles chronologically. After searching, then after selecting, we have to organize the articles. Chronologically, we can also organize theme-wise, topic-wise, subtopic-wise. I think this is more common. That's why I've highlighted using red color. By theme or topic or subtopic. And this is my personal opinion, that I my personal practice is that I don't read the paper on the screen. I always take a printout. Nowadays printer is, even lesser printer is quite cheap. Toner, now we buy online. Online toner I do find is sometimes 15 ringgit, 20 ringgit. It is quite cheap. So I do advise that the students should take the printout, and there you can have a lot of marking, your comments, your coding, all these kinds of you do. But if you read on the screen, then you have some limitations. And also danger thing is that your spinal cord may be affected, your eyes may be affected. So I do advise all my students to take printout if that is possible. And then you can take this anywhere. You have gone to visit your land, your garden, whatever. You can take the paper with you, and then you can read there easily. So that is the advantage of this. I always do that. And by author also, we can organize. Initially, try to locate as many as you can, reports or research articles or books related to your topic. Skim this initial group of articles. We have to select, because as I said, it's impossible to read all the papers in my area which have been impossible. So we have to select the good papers which are relevant to my area. Skim this initial group of articles or chapters and duplicate those that are central to your topic. Read the title and the abstract I mentioned. We can also develop conceptual map. Conceptual map is something like this, that application of analytic hierarchy process, that is my most favorite method. Application of analytic hierarchy process, this method has been applied to many areas. Let's say improving quality, supply chain management, benchmarking. Now improving quality, the AHP has been applied in airport quality improvement, AHP has been applied in education quality improvement, AHP has been applied in prioritization of, to prioritize certain factors in the improving quality of anything. So this will help me in writing literature review chapter, because we have to come up with the themes or the topics, subtopics, and then we have to synthesize the work around that particular topic. So this concept map might help you to write your literature review chapter. And also, obviously, we have to, in fact, what I advise my students, that you search the literature first. You have your title. It is mandatory that when you come for research, you have to have your title. Title which supervisor cannot give you. You have to have your title. Once you have a title, then you know the keywords. You search the literature. You select the articles which you want to, and then you arrange according to themes, and then you develop the table of content, the draft table of content. Maybe you have not read, you will read first, but this table of content will guide you regarding what kind of reading you will be going through next 2 months or 3 months or sometimes 6 months and so on. So initial table of content development is a good thing to do the literature review. Okay, so meaning of critical review. What is the meaning of critical review? In fact, the title of my talk is a critical review. There are a few things. Let me go one by one briefly. That has the author formulated a problem issue well? When I read a paper, I have to ask this question. Has the author formulated a problem issue very well? Is it clearly defined? Is its significance clearly established? Could the problem have been approached more effectively from another perspective? That's the critical view. Has the author evaluated the literature relevant to the problem or issue? So it is not just simply reading the article, it is basically to find many things from my own angle. So that's why I have to have 100% concentration while I'm reading the literature. In fact, also the literature, when I go through now, if I go through after 5 days, again, I will forget. So I have to go back. So better to do the literature review, and then we have to have a write-up, which I'll be coming up, so that we don't forget. How accurate and valid are the measurements? Is the measurement used appropriate? Are the conclusions based upon the findings and analysis? Ask so what questions often while reading the article. I do use this. When I read an article, I do ask this question, so what, so what, so what? So then I can find out the article strengths and weaknesses. If there is no answer, then there's weakness. If I get some answer of so what question, then that could be strength. And another important dimensions of criticality is that have skepticism, assume that there is some fault in this, there is some error, there is some mistake in this article, there is some problem in the article, and you have to find out, you have to identify that problem. That is the meaning of critically reviewing. Though there may not be any error. I'm not telling that the article has got error, but I assume that this article has some error, so I have to find out the error. So when I have to find out the error, of course, I have to be 100% concentrated and very much critical. I will be having critical mind because I have to find out the mistake in this article. So that is the meaning of reviewing the literature critically. And after reading the article, I have to have few things. What is the purpose of this article? I mean, objective of this work, and what are the findings, and above all, what are my own comments, observations on this particular article, and this should be written down in a template I'll share with you shortly. Areas of critique: we have to criticize credibility of the source. We can criticize on accuracy of underlying assumptions. We can raise the question mark on the rigor of the study design. Appropriateness of methodology, theory, technique. The methodology which has been applied, I can question whether the methodology is appropriate. Theory which has been used, is it appropriate? Technique which has been used, is it appropriate? So see, these are all areas where we can criticize, we can have critique, and so on. All right, logical questions. So this is your topic. This topic could be a theme, could be a sub-theme, could be subtopic, and there are papers. Study 1, study 2, these are papers. So after selecting the subtopic, then I will be reading the articles one by one around that particular subtopic. And after that, I will be writing down all this in a template which I'm sharing right now. So this template can be developed using Microsoft Word. Also, it can be used, some students, they use Microsoft Excel. Both can be used. This template will be having several columns. Sub area, if there is a workshop, then I can ask you to do, and then I can review. But since this is seminar, so just to share with you that this template, this is a table, it's a long table. This table should have several columns: sub area name, reference, method used, sample size, country, purpose, findings, your own comments, and so on. So these all are relevant to one particular paper. And the look is like, the design is like this. So this is a template. This is a template. So the area where the paper is written is service quality in hotel industry. Service quality in hotel. There are a lot of work have been done using hotel industry service quality improvement, and this is one of them. And this I advise to write complete reference. Then the author is Sang and Ku. They have used paired t-test. Some people might be using structure equation modeling, multiple regression analysis, analytic hierarchy process, and so on. Sample size is 213 international tourists and 83 managers. And the work has been done in the country China. And this is the purpose of the paper. And these are the findings. Findings can be written in a bullet form. And I do advise the student to write their own comments. The comment could be, LR starting is quite good, can be taken as model. Excellent introduction. The paper which has been, I have read, is excellent introduction. No justifications are provided for. However, the introduction is excellent, but the authors have not provided justifications for sampling. And analysis is quite thorough. Managerial implications are not provided. So there are some strengths, there are some weaknesses. So this has to be developed article by article. What is the main advantage? There are few. These findings will help you, even the comments will help you to write your literature review. Number two, that even after completing your master's or your PhD, you will be continuing research. So meanwhile, there may be gap, let's say 4 or 5 years already passed, and you are embarking upon another work in the same area. And this could be one relevant paper. But this paper you have read 5 years ago. Now, within these 5 years, it is difficult to remember what are the things which are mentioned. So either you have to go through the complete paper again, which is time consuming, but if you just read this column, then this will encapsulate the entire paper. So you don't have to read the entire paper. If you just read these few information which you yourself have developed, that will be sufficient, maybe sufficient to develop your literature review for that particular work, for the second work which you want to do after that. So this will help you for your future research. So I strongly recommend that all the students should be developing this kind of metrics to do the literature review. Okay, now there is another template which people advise, but this one is little bit difficult. So this is also matrix method. What you need to do, you need to have several findings first. So the finding 1, finding 2, finding 3, finding 4, finding 5. And this finding 1 has been relevant, means these people have got this finding. So you put a tick mark. Theme 3 or finding 3, this Smith and Warp, so you put tick mark. So then it will help you that this theme who have found, this theme 2 or finding 2 who have found, this will also help you in writing your literature review. Okay, when you complete your literature review, your reading, then you have to develop your write-up. And this write-up, I will be sharing it shortly some more. You have to have the concept of academic writing. Some of the things, some of the wording which you cannot use in your literature review. So there is another lecture in this case, the academic writing. I'll be coming to this point again in some of my later slides. Okay, this one I took from one research methodology book written by Sanders. The meaning of this slide is too messy. The meaning of this slide is that, yes, most of your write-up in the literature review chapter you will be doing in the initial phase of your research journey. But you know that when especially if you are doing PhD, maybe first year or second year you are doing literature review, and you will be submitting your thesis at the end of 4th year or even sometime 5th year. So within these 2-3 years, there could be some more research have been done. So the literature review is not one short job. It is a dynamic job. You start, maybe 80% of your references will be coming from your review in the first year or second year, but another 20% will be coming even afterwards. So before you submit your thesis to the department, to the faculty, you have to incorporate the latest references. If you don't do, then the examiner might question, oh, you have not included the latest works. So it is always good, always advisable to include the latest references. So a literature review is a dynamic activity. Now, theoretical framework. Theoretical framework is important for, there are many kinds of researches. And initially we divide into quantitative research and then qualitative research. Some we do mixed mode, means a mixture of quantitative and qualitative. If you are doing quantitative research, then either you will be applying statistical method like structure equation modeling, analysis of variance, multiple regression analysis, or you will be applying mathematical method. Mathematical method includes like data envelopment analysis, also the method which I use, analytic hierarchy process. So if you are using statistical method, then most of the time you have hypothesis. If you are using quantitative mathematical method, then you don't have hypothesis. None of my own research has got hypothesis. I have never used for my own research hypothesis. This is a different kind of research. So if you have no hypothesis, then theory or theoretical framework is not important. In fact, it is inappropriate, because this we use inductive approach. But if you are applying, if you have a hypothesis to be tested, then you are using deductive approach. And for deductive approach, theoretical framework is mandatory. Theory is a mandatory. If there is no theory, no solid theory, no pertinent theory, then it is definitely a huge problem. So theoretical framework is important, especially if you have a hypothesis and you are using statistical method for your data analysis. So theoretical framework is the foundation, in that particular sense, is the foundation on which the entire research project is based. A theoretical framework, what is theoretical framework? It represents and elaborates the relationship among the variables, explains the theory underlying these relations. I'll be going a bit short because it's a huge thing. Describes the nature and direction of the relationships. So the variables are relevant to the problem situation and identified through literature review, interviews, observations, then we can develop the theoretical framework. There are a number of variables like dependent variable, independent variable, mediating variable, moderating variable in a theoretical framework in both masters as well as PhD. Okay. One example of theoretical model, this is just a sample. The socioeconomic status and academic ability will influence academic achievement. So this is a very simple theoretical framework. And this one is the same thing with the variables, with the manifest variables, income, job, prestige, because we have to measure socioeconomic status. How do I measure socioeconomic status? So one could be income, job, prestige, then academic ability could be mathematical skills, language skills, academic achievement. So these are the variables through which we measure. This is called mediating variable. Socioeconomic status and academic achievement may not have direct relation, or the relation could be very weak. But socioeconomic status influences academic achievement through another variable, academic ability. If that is the case, then academic ability will be called as mediating variable. And another example is stress. Stress influences depression. It means they are related. And in this case, there could be one moderating variable, social support. If there is a good amount of social support, then the relation can be weak. But if there is a weak social support, the relation could be huge. So the variable which changes the relationship is known as moderating variable. Usually it is a categorical variable. A continuous variable can be also moderating variable, but we can categorize later. Conceptual framework is actually, we start with theoretical framework, and then we find that this theoretical framework is actually has limitation. There are a lot of other work have been done after development of this theoretical framework, and I can add on something. Now, when you modify the theoretical framework, then you have your conceptual framework. So the conceptual framework is how a researcher formulates the relationship between the factors identified as important in the study of the problem formulation. Now, in the existing theoretical framework, there is no relation between two variables to construct, but the later theory, later research, people have conceptualized that there could be some relation. So you use, that is your base, that is your logic, that is your justification to add one more path. So that could be your theoretical contribution as well. While the theoretical framework is the theory on which the study is based, the conceptual framework is the organization of the theory. It is the researcher's own position Theoretical framework is not your own position. Your conceptual framework is your own position. It is the researcher's own position on the problem and gives direction of the study. It may be an adaptation of a model used in a previous study with modifications to suit the inquiry. And the reference is given, Kumar et al. 2013, page 15. One very simple conceptual framework could be like this, which is maybe the master's student, they use a lot. Actually, master's student, they use this kind of conceptual framework a lot. So multiple regression could be readily applicable to analyze the data. All right, so important variables must be identified and labeled. Explain the relationship between two or more variables based on some theory. If there are prior research, then the relation should be either positive or negative. I'm talking about the hypothesis. New hypotheses not originally thought of or which have been previously untested might be developed after data collected. Creative insights might compel researchers to test a new hypothesis from existing data, which, if substantiated, would add new knowledge and help theory building. If we just use the same theoretical model everyone uses again, and again, then the knowledge will not progress. Like, so look at TAM, Technology Acceptance Model, which was developed by Davis in 1989. After that, a lot of people have extended that particular model. So the starting is a theoretical model, then gradually you go ahead with your conceptual model, but you have to have some justification of why you want to add this particular path. Theory, a set of concepts, definition, and propositions that are interrelated systematically, which is forwarded to explain or predict a phenomenon. A theory provides explanation for relationships between the variables in your model. So what is the theory? So theory is actually provides explanation for relationships between the variables in your model. But if your research, you are using analytic hierarchy process or data envelopment analysis, you deal with separate kinds of things. For example, data envelopment analysis, people use input data, output data. So there we don't have independent variable and dependent variable. For analytic hierarchy process, we have a hierarchy. Then there is a levels of the hierarchy. First level will consist of the objective. Second level will consist of the criteria. Third level will consist of the hierarchy. So each research model has its own framework. So if you are using deductive approach, meaning that you have a hypothesis, then you have to have theory, you have to have your theoretical framework and also conceptual framework. One of the very widely used theories, which I see quite heavily used, referred by students, especially in the marketing area, theory of planned behavior. So these are called constructs. So this is called theory. I mean the theoretical framework, and behind the explanation is called the theory. We can have also resource-based view. This is also quite widely used in the area of strategic management. Some of my students has used this. Hypothesis. What is hypothesis? Hypothesis is a statement containing two or more variables that are measurable or potentially measurable and that specify how the variables are related. So that's the hypothesis. There are several kinds of hypotheses. I think I don't have time to go into petty details. Just mention the heading, if then. It could be hypothesis like that. If the employees are more healthy, then they will take sick leave less frequently. And there is a theoretical justification for this. So the hypothesis could be like this. It could be directional. It could be also some cases not non-directional, but non-directional is not encouraged. The thing should be using, the student should be using directional hypothesis, meaning that the greater the stress experienced in the job, the lower the job satisfaction of employees. In other words, there is a significant negative relationship between stress experience and the job satisfaction. So the higher is the stress, job stress, the lower is the job satisfaction. So we will use the sentence like, there is a negative relationship between job stress and job satisfaction. So this kind of hypotheses are very common among students. And in your conceptual framework, you need to use this kind of, the sketch, like hypothesis one actually the relates between the relationship between new ecological paradigm and green purchase intention. This is just example. H2 is environmental collective efficacy and green supply, green purchase intention. So it is very common for students to use this kind of framework to go ahead for your hypothesis or conceptual framework. Then we have to test the hypothesis. To test the hypothesis, then we need to go for sampling design. This itself is a very huge field. I have another lecture on this sampling design, which even longer than literature review. So there are many ways we can collect data, but we need to have a population first. Then after population, we have to sample. How to sample population could be random sampling, could be non-random sampling. This is altogether a different lecture. This is not related to literature review. So after sampling, then we have to have a method, but we have to have analysis. The method could be structure equation modeling. Method could be multiple regression analysis, could be even simple correlations. Simple correlations can also sometimes we use to test hypothesis, and we can say whether it is supported or not supported. Analysis of variance is very basic as well as very powerful method for hypothesis testing. Multivariate analysis of variance or MANOVA also quite widely used. Logistic regression is certainly quite widely used, but is a slightly advanced area. So there are many other these are all statistical methods. And for statistical method, you need to have your theory and or your conceptual framework. Quoting reference into your writing. Now, how you should be developing your write-up. Just one simple example here. Islamic microfinance is widely applied tool to guard against the poverty. Hassan and Mullah, these are the surnames of the authors. Do not use the complete name here. Hassan and Mullah, 2018, their research pertains to this sentence. Islamic microfinance is widely applied tool to guard against poverty. Islamic microfinance model promotes interest-free financial programs which are followed by profit-loss sharing model that is based on Islamic Sharia. So Hanif et al. 2015. According to Haq and Yamau 2011, Islamic microfinance is a special system that consists of Islamic laws and practical applications through the development of Islamic economics. So you see, under one paragraph, there are multiple references, but the theme is a common theme. So that's the synthesis I also mentioned previously. LR checklist. After completing your literature review task, then you ask yourself some questions like, have you collected and reviewed enough literature? Make sure that you collect and review enough literature. As I mentioned, download full text articles, recent articles from credible sources. Have you been exhaustive in your literature search? Literature search has to be exhaustive. That under one database, not many papers, you have to go for another database. Sometime the full text your library may not have, very difficult to get. Then one way to, it helps me that you need to know the author's name. And from the Google search, you can find out the email address of the author and directly request the author that, look, these are the paper which you have published. I'll be grateful to have a copy of that. And that researcher will be very happy to send you the paper, because his benefit is that you will be citing his work, his or her work. So it is very helpful. You have to find out the email address of that particular author, and you just write to that particular person. Most probably you will get the positive answer with the attachment of the paper. So brothers and sisters, please try to find out try to have a full text article. Is your literature up to date? As I said, your examiner looks, one of the things, even without looking into your literature review chapter, they will look what are the years of publication of your references. And if they find that too many old references, then I'm sorry, you may get some negative comment. So make sure that your literatures are up to date, meaning 5 to 7 years in the past. Have you included the seminal work in your area of research? Seminal work, every area has some seminal work. So we have to refer to that particular work. Have you obtained the local literature on this topic? As I said, that if somebody is doing research on tourism industry and he or she is trying to apply benchmarking. Now, benchmarking in tourism industry in that particular country, has there been any work? Because you have to give the research gap. So you have to know whether similar work has been, what kind of work has been done in the context of that particular country. So it is very important. In fact, in your literature review chapter, it is better to give some heading that benchmarking in tourism industry in Malaysia or in Bangladesh or in India or in Netherlands or in Philippines. Then the examiner will know, oh, you have done quite a bit of study regarding that particular country. So it is important to have this. If that is none, then you can say that there is a limited work. Don't say there is none. It is not advisable. Better you say there is a limited work on this area. So there is a chance, there is a scope of your work. Have you reviewed and not merely copied the literature? If you have just given the summary, it is not a literature review. There will be major correction you may get. Have you written the literature coherently? One of the issues I have mentioned, I'm just repeating, that this is a very important, that the literature review, the chapter arrangement must be done very neatly, idea to idea. The flow of ideas should be seamless. So the examiner, when somebody is reading your literature review, he will understand that, oh, you have done a nice job, you've done a great job from one part to another part. Like say staircase, when you put our leg, the first staircase, then second, then third. So it is very coherently done. The literature review is very nicely organized. Have you included in the literature the major theories, concepts, factors, and variables connected with your research? There are many theories which can be relevant, but you cannot give too many theories, maybe two theories. But if you give theory, you have to make sure that you use this theory to develop your conceptual framework and also develop your questionnaire later on. Because sometimes the examiner asks, oh, you have given the theory, but you have not used this. So you also need to be careful about this. Where did you get your research framework? Is it your own? Why this framework? You have to ask yourself this question. How do you justify this framework? What is the governing theories underlying your framework? Some more. What are the dependent variables? How do you dependent variables reflect the phenomenon under study? How do you measure your dependent variable? What are your, this measurement is not actually the literature review as such, it is actually the questionnaire development, but you know that you have to give the literature on the dependent variable. So unless you have some kind of idea about the measurement and how we are going to give. So that's why the initial idea should be, it is good to have. How do we measure the dependent variables? Also independent variables. What are independent variables? How do you measure the independent variables? Whose measurements you are using? Why you are using? In this case, the student, they use either adapted or adopted. Adopted means you don't change any of the instrument developed by the previous researcher. Adaptation means you have changed given the local scenario. Both are okay. Are there moderating variables? Why these moderators? If you are using a moderating variable, if you have not given any justification, then most probably examiner will ask this question. Why is it so? Why did you consider this as a moderating variable? So you have to give the answer. Are there intervening variables? Intervening means mediating variable, the same name, same concept. Are there intervening variables? Why these intervening variables, please? What are the expected relationship between the independent variables and dependent variables? Why do you expect these relationships? That means they're going back to theory. Do your hypothesis statements reflect the relationship shown in your research model or framework? Are there any definite directions in the relationship between your dependent variables and independent variables emerging from the literature or previous write-up? So if there is a definite, we expect the students will be giving definite directions, means that there is a positive relationship between independent variable and dependent variable. So why do you think so? So there should be some justification for developing this hypothesis. Okay, I'm approaching towards the end almost. Now, almost the last topic is the issue of the plagiarism. The issue of plagiarism comes obviously when we talk about literature review. And every university has some policy to allow certain amount of repetition of the previous researcher, but there is a limit. For example, our university, IIUM, especially our faculty, they allow maximum 24% similarity. 24% similarity index. More than that, they don't accept, because at the time of proposal submission or thesis submission, the student has to submit the plagiarism check report endorsed by the supervisor. So I have found this is a major issue for certain students. In fact, my own students, I have found that, because when they submit to me, I don't check plagiarism at the very first place. I assume that, trust the student that there is no plagiarism. So at the very last moment, when they have to submit, and I have to run the plagiarism check myself, not the student, because there is a possibility for manipulation of the plagiarism software in terms of keywords, deleting, including, using quotation mark. So the plagiarism report can be manipulated. So university required the supervisor to endorse. So when I check this, sometime I have found this is a lot, sometime more than 50%. So if the more than 50% similarity index, then it is not acceptable. So the student cannot submit. The student cannot submit. So sometime time is not mapped, because the faculty submission deadline is tomorrow. And today we are talking about 50% plagiarism similarity index. So the students have no choice but to work the whole night. It has happened. That's why I'm sharing. Whole night the student work to paraphrase, but this paraphrasing should have been done in the very first place. When the student has developed the literature review chapter, that time itself, the student should have been careful in paraphrasing the work of the previous researcher. The plagiarism is actually, there are many concepts. By definition, plagiarism is that somebody has copied some other person's work without reference. That is 100% plagiarism. But in our case, we also consider that is the plagiarized work, even the reference is there, but it's word by word copied. Word was sentenced by the whole paragraph has been copied, even though reference has been provided. This is also considered as plagiarized work, though the reference is not given, means 100% plagiarized work, but the reference is not given, still it can be plagiarized work, because the sentence has not been any change. So we need to paraphrase. When I'm using some paragraph, everybody undergoes this kind of exercise, including myself. When I go through, I have to paraphrase the work using my own words. All right. So plagiarism is academic theft, quoting someone's work, cutting and pasting text, paraphrasing someone else's work by altering a few words only, using someone's table or figure without citing source. Whenever we are using a table or a figure of somebody, I'm not changing anything, then it is mandatory to provide source. Auto self-plagiarism, Plagiarism also, let's say you have published many articles, and that does not mean that you will be just copying and pasting. That is called self-plagiarism. That is also not acceptable. Self-plagiarism is also not acceptable. So advice is, while writing, try to use your own words as much as possible. Wherever possible, provide references. It is a good practice while in your writing literature review. Wherever reference is possible to provide, you give reference. I have some experience in even publishing papers. Some examiners, some reviewers, they just give this. Oh, give reference here, give reference here. You have made a statement, but you have not given a reference. So my advice will be that wherever possible, provide a reference, but not too many references. I have also seen that some thesis, every sentence there is a reference, every other sentence there is a reference. That's too much. That also reduce the readability. So you have to make a balance. Not too many references. Every now and then, sometimes reference is one paragraph. No, that's too many. So you have to make a balance. Then the citation, the bibliography should be arranged according to some formatting style. Our university, IIUM, we follow APA style, American Psychological Association. Some university they prefer, or it's a policy to use Harvard style. Some university Chicago style. So you have to know your own university's reference style. And this reference style should be followed uniformly and looking at completeness. All right. So I'm sure you are familiar with this. So this is the reference for a book. For a book, this is the complete reference, and this is APS style. And if it's a journal article, single author is quite obvious. Then if it's multiple authors, let's say 2 authors, then there is a comma here, there is an ampersand here, and the journal title is italicized. Journal title italicized. One of the problem which I face is that the students have not provided the volume number. Issue number also should be given. Though in certain cases there is no issue number, but you have to search whether issue number is really available or not. If it's available, then you have to provide the issue number. And also I do find sometimes page numbers are missing. So all in all the parts are important. Then we can say that this reference is complete. Chapter in a book, there is a way to put in chapter in a book. Conference proceeding, there is some way. So we have to follow this APS style if it is necessary. If my university is following APS style. If my university is following Harvard style, I have to follow Harvard style. Paper presented in conference also, there is some way to put. And there are 2 important software available for reference arrangement. One is EndNote, another one is Mendeley. Both are internationally very, very popular among the students. Our university, Mendeley, is very popular. Some university, among the faculty members, EndNote is even more popular than Mendeley. I use EndNote. I used to use, but now it is a bit less. So EndNote has a free version. It's from Thomson Reuters. Free version is internet-based. But if you want to have a desktop version, then you have to pay. But as I was told that Mendeley is free, even for desktop version. But I'm not very sure because I have not used Mendeley. So my final words or the concluding words is that, first of all, select full text articles from credible journals on the topic of your research. Now the question can be, sometimes students ask, how do I know that it is a credible journal? The answer is that credible journals are published by the credible publishers. Like, as I said, Emerald, IndraScience, Elsevier, Wiley, like that. Now, you will be getting the journal title. Yeah, and look at the journal website. If the journal website is that they promise that your paper will be published within 2 weeks, that itself is enough to say, to conclude that this is not a good journal. This is not a credible journal. No good journal can promise that your article is published within 2 weeks. Sometimes it takes 2 years. Forget about 2 weeks. Sometimes it takes 2 years to get a paper published. So credibility of the journal source is very, very important. And some editors, they specifically mentioned that you have to use the some index journals like Web of Science, Scopus. These are the two major index journals. Identify the articles directly on your topic and the ones which are on the related areas. There will be two kinds of articles you will find. One directly related to your topic, that's the main ones, and some are at the periphery in the side areas. So you have to review both. Try to develop your initial table of content, I have mentioned already. Start reading the articles critically, also mentioned. Develop metrics of LR. So this could be one work for you. You try to develop I have given the, and I will share the materials to the organizer, the host of this seminar. I have not sent to them, but I will share, and if you like, then you can have from them. So you try to, it helps a lot. I have tested this. Referring to LR metrics, identify all the findings on a particular issue and start synthesizing those findings. Mind academic writing style. Academic writing is another lecture. Academic writing is important to develop, to write your entire thesis, not just simply the literature review. Develop LR chapter under section and subsection headings or the theme wise. Maintain coherency among the paragraphs. Have it proofread by a professional and then submit to your supervisor. I'm talking about the students particularly. So I always require, what I do normally, my practice is that students, they have to write the literature review chapter first and send to me. I will look into the overall structure. Yesterday, I looked into one of my students' literature review chapter, and I found that no, this is not a literature review. The organization is not done accordingly as it should be. So I will not read it. So I will give back to the student. I will not read. In both cases, if the student has done good work, literature review is done, no problem, but still I will not read it. The student has to send to the proofreader first. Student has to send a professional proofreader first, and when the proofreading is done, then after that I will read, then I will give my comments. Why? Because often I have found that the English language used is not good at all. And most of my energy spent on correcting the grammar, correcting the sentences, restructuring the sentences, whereas I am supposed to provide my comments on the work itself, content itself, but I am spending my energy to correct the English grammar. So the work has to be done by a professional. Even I am not a professional English teacher. So have it proofread by a professional and then submit to your supervisor. Then supervisor will read and supervisor will give the constructive comments or the strengths, weaknesses, whatever is necessary, whatever comments, then the supervisor will give back to the student, and then the student will rectify, will amend the chapter, and then the chapter will be done. So with this, I wish you good luck for your literature review and your research. So thank you very much for your attention. So I'm sorry if I have said anything wrong or anything not correct, please forgive me. But if there is any question, then I'll be trying to answer. So thank you very much once again to all of you. So I'm giving back to the host, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for your nice presentation. Now we are in the question answer session. If you have any question, please feel free to ask those to our guest. For your kind information, you can ask the question in Bangla also, because our guest recognize Bangla. So if you have any question, then feel free to ask to our guest. Thank you.
আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
ওয়ালাইকুম আসসালাম।
আমি সোহাগ বলছি, MBA সেকেন্ড সেমিস্টার।
ওকে।
স্যার আমার দুইটা কোশ্চেন ছিল।
ওকে,
স্যার আপনি কি শুনতে পাচ্ছেন?
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, শুনতে পাচ্ছি।
স্যার আমরা একটা রিসার্চের ক্ষেত্রে রিসার্চ অবজেক্টিভ ফিক্সড করার জন্য কোন কোন বিষয়গুলোর দিকে খেয়াল রাখতে পারি, আর রিসার্চ গ্যাপ আইডেন্টিফাই করার জন্য কোন বিষয়গুলো খুবই ইম্পর্টেন্ট, মানে গুরুত্বের সাথে দেখতে হবে, এই দুইটা বিষয় যদি বলতেন।
আচ্ছা, প্রথম কোশ্চেনটা তাহলে বলি। প্রথমে হচ্ছে রিসার্চ অবজেক্টিভ। Research objective actually, when I want to start my research journey, I have to decide my research area first. For example, my research area is employee performance management or employee performance measurement. So there are models which are used to measure employee performance or any organization performance. All right. Now, what is my research question? My research question will be that how do we measure an organization on employees effectively? So what will be the research objective? Research objective will be that to develop an effective measurement model to effective model to measure employees' performance. Okay, so research objective, research question, actually they are quite interlinked, should be related to your title of your thesis, of your research. If you have to come up with your title first. Of course, sometimes title can be modified, can be changed later, but it is always good to have a rough title. I mean, the first version of your title. This title will give you the keywords and also the research questions and also the research objective. Unless we are not clear actually what actually I'm going to do, then the research objective will not be clear and research questions will not be clear. So we have to come up the first thing that what actually I am going to achieve. Is it that I'm going to develop some index? For example, one of my students, he's from Bangladesh. He developed Islamic, you know, the Islamic banking. Islamic banking is very popular in Bangladesh as well as in Malaysia and some other countries. Islamic banking is supposedly to be operating on the basis of Maqasid al-Sharia, objectives of Sharia. So in his literature review, he did not find any index or any model which have been developed based upon Maqasid al-Sharia. So there is a research gap. So then what is his objective? The objective is to develop a performance measurement model or a measurement model to measure performance of Islamic banks, not in Bangladesh, because Islamic banks are everywhere. So his objective is clear. He firstly found that there is no research has been done, or very little research has been done to develop a model which can be used to measure performance of Islamic banks. There are many models which are useful for measuring performance of conventional banks. For Islamic banks also there are some, but those models are not developed on the basis of core Maqasid al-Sharia. So to develop the research objective or research question, obviously we have to go back to our what actually we want to do, what actually we want to achieve. And that should be the starting point to talk about research questions as well as research objective. So in brief, this is my answer. And second question, how do we go about research gap? Is it the question, brother?
Yes, sir.
How do we go for research gap? Research gap, to identify the research gap, at first we have to do the literature review comprehensively. We have to collect the literature as much as possible, especially from the local context. As I showed you in using the website Emerald Insight, that benchmarking, then tourism, and benchmarking and tourism and Bangladesh. And I did not find any research paper published by Emerald. Then I'll be going for another online database. Now, once we get the relevant papers, after collection of the relevant papers, then we develop the research matrix. And in the research matrix, the matrix I have shown, I note down all the findings, all the objectives, all the purposes. And all these objectives, all the purposes are not exactly what I want to do. So after this thorough literature review, if we don't do literature review, I'm afraid we cannot develop the research gap. We have to know first what has been done and then what can be done. So the main objective of literature review is to know what has been done. And once we know what has been done, then it will be easy for us to talk about where is the research gap. I think that is to me, that is the main way to find out the research gap. So this is my answer to your query. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, Shoak. Is there any other question you can ask to our guest?
Yeah, we have time. So please feel free to ask question. Even আপনারা বাংলাতেও জিজ্ঞেস করতে পারেন। আমি বাংলাতেও অ্যানসার দিতে পারি, কোনো অসুবিধা নেই। You can also use the chat box.
Assalamu alaikum, Prof.
Alaikum salam.
I am Dr. Mahbub, Professor, Department of Marketing. I have completed my PhD under your supervision. It is a pleasure for me. Thanks for your nice presentation. I have a question. That means you have mentioned that two framework, one is theoretical framework and another one is conceptual framework. In theoretical framework, so far as I know, it is established theory, which is established by someone or some authors. And in conceptual framework, we can modify the model.
Yes.
So when we modify the model with adding some factors or some variables, then have we required to mention the reference which is used by someone earlier?
Yes, yes. If you have 5 constructs.
Yes.
And in the theoretical framework, there are, let's say, 7 hypotheses, the interlinkage between the constructs. All right.
Yes.
Now, this theoretical framework has been developed, let's say, 5 to 7 years ago. Now, within these 5 to 7 years, there are some other people have conducted research, and they have also dealt with this theoretical framework, and somehow they have found some relationship between some constructs. But in the existing theoretical framework, it is not mentioned. Nowhere it is mentioned, even in that particular research. But they have just touched upon. They have just touched upon. They have not proved, or maybe they have proved in their own country, on legality, on culture. But in my own scenario, own system, this has not been tested. So the answer is yes. Without giving the theoretical justification or the philosophy behind this, then examiner might question, is it your gut feeling? They can use this kind of term. Is it your own? How do you hypothesize this without some justification? So if you are adding some of the extra things, I do advise that should look for certain clue, at least, maybe not exactly like that, but maybe distantly related. Distantly related, it is possible to find out. And you tell that this is the reference, but this has not been tested. So my research interest to include this hypothesis in the model, and then you can get your conceptual model.
Okay, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome. Any other?
আসসালামু আলাইকুম স্যার, আমি রেবেকা সুলতানা স্বর্ণা, এমবিএ প্রথম সেমিস্টার।
আচ্ছা
স্যার আমার একটা প্রশ্ন ছিল, যেমন আপনি বললেন কনসেপচুয়াল ফ্রেমওয়ার্কে হচ্ছে আমরা ভেরিয়েবল অ্যাড করতে পারি যদি আমরা প্রপার রিজন দেখাইতে পারি। তো স্যার আমরা কি কোনো একটা মডেল ইউজ করার ক্ষেত্রে সেটা আমরা কোনো ভেরিয়েবলকে সাবস্ট্রাক্ট করতে পারি?
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, এটা যদি যদি আমার কোনো আমি তো থিওরিটিক্যাল মডেলটা নিয়ে আমি পড়াশোনা করেছি, তাই তো? আমি থিওরিটিক্যাল মডেলটা নিয়ে পড়াশোনা করেছি এবং তারপরে অনেক কাজ হয়েছে, অনেক কনস্ট্রাক্ট এখানে যে এই যে 4-5টা কনস্ট্রাক্ট আছে, এর মানে এই নয় যে আমি 4-5টা কনস্ট্রাক্টই রাখবো থ্রু আউট। দ্য রিসার্চ হ্যাজ টু প্রোগ্রেস। আমি এখানে ডিলিশন করা যেতে পারে কিন্তু কতটা রেকমেন্ডেড নয়, কিন্তু আমি এখানে অ্যাড করতেই পারি উইথ প্রপার জাস্টিফিকেশন। আমি বলতে পারি যে এটা 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 ইনকমপ্লিট আছে, এটা কমপ্লিটনেস করতে গেলে এই কনস্ট্রাক্টটা লাগবে, এবং সেখানে যদি আমার জাস্টিফিকেশন থাকে তাহলে আমার সেটা তো মোস্ট ওয়েলকাম। আমি 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 এক্সাম্পলটা দেই, সেটা বিজনেস রিলেটেড নয়, সেটা হচ্ছে ফিজিক্স রিলেটেড। আমার ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ড হচ্ছে সায়েন্স। ফিজিক্সে ভেলোসিটি অফ সাউন্ড প্রথমে আবিষ্কার করেছিলেন স্যার আইজাক নিউটন। উনি প্রথমে বলেছিলেন যে ভেলোসিটি অফ সাউন্ড এটা হচ্ছে ফর্মুলা। তো সেই ফর্মুলাটা দেখে দেখা গেল যে ফর্মুলাটা অলমোস্ট কারেক্ট, কিন্তু রিয়েলিটির সঙ্গে ম্যাচ করছে না। রিয়েলিটির যে ভেলোসিটি অফ সাউন্ড, ভেলোসিটি অফ লাইট আছে আমরা জানি, এই রিয়েলিটির সঙ্গে ম্যাচিং কেন করছে না, তার জন্য রিসার্চ করলেন বিজ্ঞানী ম্যাথমেটিশিয়ান ল্যাপ্লাস ফ্রম ফ্রান্স। Laplace is a very well respected world-renowned mathematician. A lot of theories are there. So উনি বললেন যে এই একটা ভেরিয়েবল, একটা আইটেম মিস হয়েছে এই নিউটনের মডেল থেকে। মডেলটা কিন্তু নিউটনের, সেটাই হচ্ছে থিওরিটিক্যাল মডেল। এবারে ল্যাপ্লাস করলেন কি, ওই একটা আইটেম ওখানে একটা প্যারামিটার অ্যাড করলেন, বললেন যে এটা এবার যদি অ্যাড করি তাহলে ইট উইল ম্যাচ টু দ্য রিয়েলিটি, এবং দেখা গেল হ্যাঁ ঠিক তাই। এবং সেই যে ফর্মুলাটা, যে ভেলোসিটি অফ সাউন্ডের ফর্মুলাটা যে আবিষ্কার হয়েছে, আজ পর্যন্ত সেটাই চলছে। তো এখানে যেটা আমি মডেলটা যেটা আমি দেখবো, সেই মডেলটা যে আমি যে মডিফাই করতে পারবো না তেমন কিন্তু নয়। কিন্তু যেটা এখানে বক্তব্য সেটা হচ্ছে যে আমার যদি কোনো থিওরিটিক্যাল জাস্টিফিকেশন না থাকে তাহলে কিন্তু এটা আমার গাট ফিলিং হয়ে যাবে, এটা আমার আই থিঙ্ক মনে হয়ে যাবে, এবং সেক্ষেত্রে কিন্তু ডিফেন্ড করাটা মুশকিল হতে পারে। ওই জন্য আমি চেষ্টা করব যে কোনো ডিস্ট্যান্ট রিলেটেডও যদি কোনো academic literature পাই related to that particular relation, related to that particular regarding inclusion of that particular construct in that model, that is actually expected. If we don't have, then you need to be very, very bold that why this should be done. And I don't have any problem to accept, but there are examiners, they may question that. They are very much I mean they think that, oh, there must be some solid theoretical justification, otherwise it is not acceptable. In that particular case, I am a bit lenient. If the student, they have their own may not be reference, but otherwise there is solid logic and the logic is quite acceptable, then I have no problem. Otherwise, at the end, you are testing the model whether this relation is valid, it is supported or not. If it is supported, then it is a good thing to do, and then later on people will refer to your work that you have done something new, and that is your new contribution. As per Sekaran, she has mentioned in her research methodology book, this could be your contribution to your theory, because theory is there. Especially for PhD research, we require the students will be having theoretical contribution, practical contribution. So theoretical contribution could be like that you have modified the existing theory and you have obtained something new, So I hope I have addressed your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, welcome.
So is there any other question from the audience?
Can you chat box also? I don't see chat box. No, there's no question on chat box.
No, sir, there is no question in the chat box. So if you do not have any question, then we can conclude the session. Sir, if you permit, then we can conclude the session.
Yes. I'm I'm okay. I'm free another 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes. If there is any question, I can try to answer.
Okay.
But if there is no, then of course we have to conclude.
আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
ওয়ালাইকুম আসসালাম।
আমি মাসুদুল হাসান বেগম রোকেয়া বিশ্ববিদ্যালয় থেকে বলছিলাম।
আচ্ছা।
আমি অ্যাকচুয়ালি আপনার প্রেজেন্টেশনটা অনেক সুন্দর হয়েছে। এখানে আমার জানার কোনো কোয়েরি নাই। আমি আজকের যেই ওয়েবিনারের অর্গানাইজার শাহেদ মাহমুদ, ওকে ধন্যবাদ দিতে চাই। ও আমার বন্ধু, আমরা একই বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ের ছাত্র। আর সব মিলে যে শাহেদ যেই ওয়েবিনার আয়োজন করছে এবং ভবিষ্যতে সিরিজ অফ ওয়েবিনার আয়োজন করবে, এই জন্য সে একটা ভালো উদ্যোগ নিয়েছে, তাকে ধন্যবাদ জানাই। আর আপনার পিএইচডি স্টুডেন্ট ডক্টর মাহবুবুর রহমান স্যার, উনি আমার সরাসরি শিক্ষক, তিনিও আজকের সেমিনারে উপস্থিত ছিলেন, স্যারকেও ধন্যবাদ জানাই। আর আপনার আজকের এই ওয়েবিনারের মাধ্যমে লিটারেচার রিভিউয়ের অনেক বিষয়গুলো আজকে খুবই সহজ হয়ে গেছে আমার জন্য। এগুলো ভবিষ্যতে হয়তো লিটারেচার রিভিউ অনেক কাজে দিবে। ধন্যবাদ আপনাকে।
Very good. Thank you very much. Most welcome. আর মনে হচ্ছে কোনো কোশ্চেন নেই।
Okay, I think there is no question right now. So thank you, sir, for your insightful discussion. We think today's discussion will be a landmark discussion for our audience to think about future research activities. Thank you once again, sir, for joining us. I hope we will arrange this kind of webinars in near future, and you will join those webinars too. Dear audience, with that note, we want to thank you for your presence, and we would like to invite you in our next webinar. Till then, Allah Hafiz. Thank you.
Thank you very much, brother. I appreciate. May Allah bless us all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.